Hello and welcome to another video. So today I am here with my July TBR, and since I'm mostly focusing on participating in the ckathon during July, this is also my ckathon TBR because for the most part most of these books are for that readathon, and then there are a handful of books that are for not that readathon, just kind of like tacked along and honestly pretty ambitious. My June TBR was pretty ambitious, and you'll have seen that wrap-up video posted I think before this one. So this is yet another month with an ambitious TBR, but this month is different because I'm not moving across several state lines, and I'm not also doing a daily video series. And yeah, I will be like getting back into the groove of getting ready to figure out what the fall is going to look like as a teacher at my new school. But for the most part, I think it's still mostly summer and I have fewer things to do, so I hope that I will be able to get through more of this list than I did my June TBR. And because I am moving, all of my books are packed right now, so I'll just be putting little covers over here in the editing, even if I have the book physically, because all my books are packed. So we're gonna make our way through the list. Like I said, I'll be going first through the readathon prompts for the ckathon. The ckathon is hosted by Noria from Noria Reads. She has an announcement video that I will post below, as well as several recommendation videos. Every single prompt, she has a very detailed, super helpful recommendation video where she goes through lots of books that would fit the prompt, and some of these that I've pulled are from those kinds of videos because they were really helpful in putting together my TBR. Most of these books I hope to be getting from my library. They're doing curbside pickup, but it's a new library and in a new library system, so I still have to get a library card, and we'll see how that goes. So that also means that for some of these prompts I have a couple of options because it will depend on what I'm able to get from my library. And I also just had a really hard time picking books. Like, there are so many that I really want to get to, especially because there was just so much reading that I didn't get to in June that I just could not decide. So we're just gonna see all of the books that I'm at all interested in reading in the month of July. So the first prompt for the ckathon is F-ableism, and for this prompt I have selected the Kiss Quotient. And for this prompt I have selected the Kiss Quotient by Helen Hoang, H-O-A-N-G. I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name, but it's written in the cover image. And it's about a woman named Stella Lane who hires an escort in order to help her practice things like romance and dating, and it fits the prompt because Stella has Asperger's. Prompt number 2 is F capitalism, and for this one I have two possibilities. One of them both of them I own, but the issue is that one of them I'm kind of stretching the prompt because I really want to read this book sometime in July, and the other one I know fits because it's been recommended in a couple of different places for this prompt, but I don't know. So the first is The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter. So this is an adult high fantasy novel. It's stretching the prompt because I don't know if it's really involved with capitalism. I don't know how much of it is capitalist, but when I was watching Noria's recommendation video, a lot of the kinds of recommendations that she had involved people manipulating a capitalist system to their own ends and like to benefit them, and that's what this next book I'm going to talk about really does. But this one, it's similar. I mean, there's a character and he was about to leave an army, but then he gets betrayed, and so he stays in the army in this system to become the best swordsman and get revenge on those who betrayed him. So it kind of fits if the army and if this world is capitalistically kind of motivated or run, but I don't know enough about the world, so it might not really fit the prompt. I don't know, but I really want to read it, so I'm just sticking it on this TBR list. The other book that I know fits the prompt and I also want to read is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I own Six of Crows. I've had it for a long time and I just never read it. I don't know much about it. It's just considered, or I keep hearing it described as something to do with a heist, and that's all I know. But it's been so well reviewed and spoken of so often that I do want to get to it. The edition I have is really cool. It has black sprayed edges and I really like it. So I want to read it sometime, maybe this month. We shall see. The next prompt is F-book elitism, and so for this prompt I have selected A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. I picked this book for a couple of reasons. One, I'm trying to make my way through the ckathon series. I read A Court of Thorns and Roses for the second time in June, and I want to reread A Court of Mist and Fury so that I can finally get to A Court of Wings and Ruin. So there's that. I just want to read this book. Secondly, though, I find the ckathon series to be pretty polarizing. Every time I see someone talk about it, they either love it or they hate it. And so I think that's really funny because so many people have such strong feelings about this book series. I fall into the love it category. Now, that being said, I also don't think it's like this masterpiece. Like, I recognize that sometimes some of the language is repetitive. There are certain words that Sarah J. Maas just likes to repeat and repeat and repeat, and it's everywhere in the book. And sometimes the writing, like the situations that the characters are in, are kind of weird. So it's not it's not a book I would consider objectively great. Like, I wouldn't go out and say that anyone should like this book or find something great in it. But it is a book that I think is super fun. And so I'm really excited to reread it. It's a good time. I really, really like this book series. The next prompt is F Gentrification. And for this book prompt, I have picked Pride by Ibi Zobi. And I don't know a ton about this book. It was recommended in one of the recommendation lists that Noria has posted on her channel. But apparently it's some kind of Pride and Prejudice modern retelling with characters of color. And in it you have the main character named Zuri, who is in a neighborhood that's being gentrified. So she's watching her neighborhood change around her, and then other stuff happens, and I guess it's a Pride and Prejudice retelling. I have read Pride and Prejudice. I did not like it. I'm not one of those people that like adores Jane Austen or Pride and Prejudice, but I don't know. We'll see. Maybe the retelling will bring in elements that make it more interesting. And I also read it a really long time ago. I think I read it my sophomore year of high school, so it's been a while. The next prompt is F Theological Fundamentalism, and so for this prompt I picked Love from A to Z by S.K. Ali. And this book takes two characters, Adam and Zainab. So Zainab is dealing with the aftermath of speaking out against a teacher who kept telling the class how bad Muslims are, and she's dealing with how this teacher is now targeting her and some of her friends. And then you've got Adam, who has been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and his mother has recently died, and he's trying to hide his diagnosis from his grieving father and then keep his mother's memory alive for his younger sister. Then you got both of these characters, and they've got a lot going on, and then they meet. And I don't know anything about what happens once they meet, but basically the synopsis told me this like intro kind of setup situation that they're both in, and then they meet, and that changes things. And I don't know how, but I think it's a romance, so I'm excited to see how that plays out. The next prompt is F Slut Shaming, and for this prompt I picked House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. I very deliberately do not know a ton about this book. I've heard a couple of people talk about it, like non-spoilery reviews, and I have also, I think I read the synopsis one time, but then I saw a video by Becca from Becca and the Books, I think is what her channel is called, and she recommended that you not read the synopsis because there's a spoiler in the synopsis, in the sense that it describes something that happens a couple hundred pages into the book. And so I have not read the synopsis since, and I have completely forgotten anything else that I knew about the book. All I know is that it's written by Sarah J. Maas, and it's her first full adult fantasy novel. And so I'm excited to read it. I have it, I bought it, but I have not read it yet. It's also really big. So that's another thing about this TBR list. I know I have 2 or 3 books that are pretty hefty and are going to take me time to get through, which is why I know going into this that it's pretty ambitious. The next prompt is F White Supremacy, and for that I have picked The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. So this is a book that has been frequently recommended, especially in light of recent events. It's been talked about all over the place, so you might already be familiar with it, but if you aren't, it is about a girl named Star Carter who witnesses the death of her childhood best friend Khalil when he is fatally shot by a police officer. And then as the only eyewitness to this shooting, there's a lot of pressure on her from the media and from her community, and she is struggling with what, if anything, what kind of response she's going to have to the situation. Like, the spotlight is on her. That was my understanding from the synopsis that I've read. The next prompt is F with yourself. Do something completely selfish for yourself. And I still wanted to keep this book related. Like, it could be anything, right? This is really just kind of more of a self-care prompt. But I decided to just tack on a couple extra books onto my TBR for this one because I wanted to add these books. Like, there are some books that I really wanted to read soon, maybe not in July given how long this list is, but I really wanted to read them and they didn't fit a prompt that I knew about, so I just added them here. And so I picked 2 because I couldn't decide. The first one is Incendiary by Zoraida Cordova, and this is a book I don't know a ton about at all. I've just seen it around, I love the cover, and it was the Fairy Loot April book of the month, so I've been really excited to read it, and maybe I'll get to read it in July. The second book I'm also really excited about, and it's A Song of Wraiths and Ruin by Roseanne A. Brown. Oh my gosh, I love the cover of this book too. Like, both of these books are so pretty, and I'm really bad at liking or wanting to read books because of the covers. I will put off and put off and put off a book no matter how well it's reviewed if I do not like the cover. It happened with The Wheel of Time. I just can't abide by poor cover art because it's like the first thing you see, and I carry my books around, and so if I'm going to have the book with me, I want it to look nice. And so when a book has really nice cover art, I'm just a sucker for it. And A Song of Wraiths and Ruin is about a boy named Malik who is trying to get back his kidnapped sister, the price of which is to kill Karina, the crown princess of Ziran. And then you also have Karina, who is trying to resurrect her mother, who was recently assassinated with ancient magic, and this ancient magic needs the beating heart of a king. And so she plans to marry the victor of the Solstasia competition, and basically Malik gets himself put into the Solstasia competition, so I'm sure you can see how these 2 characters are going to ultimately interact. And because Karina's plan is to marry the winner of the Solstasia competition, that really sets the characters up to be on this collision course of plans and goals that ultimately involve one or both of them being dead, but at the same time some kind of growing attraction between the characters, and I am here for it. And then the final prompt is F Ageism, and for this one I found a cool book. I don't know, I'm excited about it. So it is called The 100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Out of the Window and Disappeared by Jonas Jonasson. And I mean, the title is pretty self-explanatory. There's this old man, I think it's his 100-year birthday at like a retirement home or something like that, and he's kind of just tired of sitting around, and he climbs out of his window and disappears for the day and then gets involved in all kinds of things. So I'm really excited about that. I like the idea of this old man just like being done and leaving and going off to find whatever kind of adventure he finds in this book. So I'm looking forward to it. Hello, this is me from the future realizing that I did not talk about the group book. So that's why my shirt is different, because this is a completely different day, but I'm just going to insert this clip into the middle of my TBR and note that the group book for the readathon is The Source of Self-Regard by Toni Morrison, and it is a collection of essays and things by her. There are 3 pieces if I read the synopsis correctly, but there may be more. I don't really know. I've never read a collection of essays, so it's going to be interesting. It's like the non-fiction version of a short story collection, and so short stories and I don't always get along, but I am intrigued. So I'm excited to get to this book in particular. I might not get to all of the books that I've listed so far here for my July TBR, but this book I will be prioritizing, so hopefully this is one that does actually get read in the month of July. Alright, so I've just given you the 9 prompts for the F-a-thon, 2 of which have 2 books associated with them because I could not pick what I wanted to read. So that's 11 books total for my personal TBR. Honestly, way too many. I don't know which ones I'll be able to get through, but the cool thing about the F-a-thon is that Noria has put together a bingo board, and the goal to win or to complete, or however you want to say it, right? Because it's not really a competition. The readathon is to make an F on the bingo board. So it has 9 spaces and you make an F, which means that there are like 2 to 3, maybe 4 prompts you don't really have to complete in order to get an F, depending on how you draw it. So we'll see which books I end up actually reading by the end of the month. Then I have 2 books that I'd like to read with my boyfriend, and these books are picked because we are currently reading Season of Storms by Andrzej Sapkowski, and I hope to finish that, if not before the end of June. I think we'll finish it early in July, and then should have time to read a couple more books together. So the books that I'd like us to read in July include The Fires of Heaven by Robert Jordan, which is the 5th book in the Wheel of Time series, and just the next book because we recently finished The Shadow Rising. And then the other book is Blood of Elves by Andrzej Sapkowski. So Blood of Elves was part of my June TBR, and we just didn't get to it. It is the first book in the pentology for The Witcher, the main 5-book series. There are all kinds of prequels for it, and we've almost made it through the prequels. There are 2 collections of short stories, and then a novel-length prequel that is called Season of Storms. So we're reading Season of Storms now, and when we finish with it, we will go back to the Wheel of Time because honestly, we're both really missing the Wheel of Time right now. And we'll read that book and then go back to Blood of Elves because we do want to finish the Witcher series so that we can hop into the video game. So those are my plans for that. All in all, that's a 13-book long TBR, and it's not really doable. So I don't know which books I will or will not read. That being said, this list is also really interesting and different for me because there are quite a few contemporaries on here. There are at least 3 or 4 books, and so there are a couple of things going on with those. One, contemporaries are often shorter than like epic fantasy, and the books are often just a little easier to read for me because you're not in a completely new world with completely new vocabulary. You're reading about everyday life in some aspect. So I don't know, because I feel like those might be quicker reads. I'm also really excited about this TBR because I don't read a lot of contemporary. There are so many sci-fi and fantasy books that I want to read and that I know about that I could just read them forever. You know, like just go and never stop for another genre, because that's my preferred genre. On average, I enjoy reading sci-fi and fantasy the most. However, I recognize that other genres also have good books in them. And so another thing that I really like about this readathon is that it has really pushed me to look in other genres. And maybe if I looked even harder, I could have found a fantasy or sci-fi book to fit some of the prompts that I've picked a contemporary for. But I didn't, and I'm not sad about that because I'm excited to mix things up a little bit and really change up some of the genres. I didn't think that ever happened. I'm like a hardcore sci-fi fantasy fan, but I don't know. I'm really intrigued by the contemporaries that I have selected. I'm really excited about them. And I'm also really relieved to be moving somewhere with a bigger library system than where I live right now, because that also means that I don't have to buy every single book, hopefully. I hope that I will be able to get some of these books from the curbside pickup at the library, and we'll see how that goes. I don't even have a library card yet, but hopefully that'll work out. Otherwise, that will also limit my TBR completion, whether I have to buy all the books or if I can get them at the library. So we shall see. That's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know down in the comments if you also plan to participate in the ckathon, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!